all of the investors in our consortiums, and including the lead one, were brought on by our existing investors. So we did a full outreach ourselves, attending conferences and meeting both corporate VCs, family offices. But at the end of the day, those that actually moved in and invested were warm intros from our existing consortium, which I think speaks volumes as to how powerful warm intros are in this environment. Hey Alex, my name is Charles. I'm a Frenchman based in Lausanne, working as the CFO of Planetary for the past 2.5 years now. And I do have a background in both industrial biotech and also investment banking in the past. We just announced Planetary a 16 million Swiss franc Series A just a couple of days ago, led by two co-investors, Radical Capital and Oetker, which is part of Oetker Collection.
Amazing. Well, we're really excited about this. If you want to get into the weeds of this fungi, listen to the Better Meat Company as well. So you'll see that the mushrooms are back. And I'm not talking about just and the psilocybin being made legal in the United States. Where we're talking about other type of mushrooms. Very excited to have this conversation. I believe that you guys are gonna save agri-FoodTech, so it's exciting. How did you guys meet your lead investors?
All of the investors in our consortiums, and including the lead one, were brought on by our existing investors. So we did a full outreach ourselves, attending conferences and meeting both corporate VCs, family offices. But at the end of the day, those that actually moved in and invested were warm intros from our existing consortium, which I think speaks volumes as to how powerful warm intros are in this environment.
All right. So to all of our listeners, this podcast has entirely become about warm intros now. So that's essentially the next 5 minutes. We'll just be talking about the warm intros. So if you don't want to talk about it, you can just skip ahead. I love this. So talk that through to me. How were you able to manage your investors in the way that they did those warm intros for you? Like, what was the process? Did you have weekly meetings with your investors? Did you give them a list? Did they bring a list?
I would say rather unstructured at the very beginning. We did tell investors in early 2025 that we were going for a Series A with a couple of investor conferences lined up, and with, I would say, already set amount in mind. We had actually some pretty good successes in those conferences, and actually had some very advanced discussions with investors at the time, which ultimately did not materialize. And then I would say about 5 months in, when we said, we identified some strength in our approach, but also some weaknesses, we had a more structured approach then. And we said, dear all, this is what we're going for. This is the spiel. This is the equity story that we're going with. Please let us know if you think there are weaknesses in that equity story, but also please introduce us to anyone who would fit with not only our business model, but the equity story that comes with it. So I would say it was a twofold approach, and the very structured approach only came about through the summer 25. Well, the equity story was, I would say, achieved commercial or industrial scale in record time. I think we're very proud of the fact that we built and operated our first 50-meter cube out of Switzerland, producing mycoprotein for the Swiss market and having actual products on the shelves. I think that was one key element we wanted to educate the market about. Number two was, I would say, the change in strategy. I think a lot of people associated Planetary in the early days as a CMO and producing on behalf of. And it's true that we did have a lot of partnership with precision fermentation companies, but the rollout strategy and game plan for now is to license our unique know-how when it comes to fermentation, be it biomass or precision, to the sugar industry with the hope of scaling up mycoprotein production globally.
Whoa, that second one was a mouthful. Whoa, hello. Yeah, the first
Yeah,
one, hello. So let's summarize that real quick. The equity story in the beginning is we've achieved successful scale in record
that's right.
time. We have
Yeah,
products on the market.
yeah.
And that's obvious. And just to like open these ones up right here and clear. Obviously, nobody has signed an NDA in this conversation, so share whatever you'd like, but share as much as you like to make it interesting. Is there a regulatory issue with your product?
No, there is no regulatory issue.
Products.
We often joke around and say that we
Right.
took every shortcut in the playbook to try to get to market. And A lot of it is true. We're using fusarium atom, which is the most commonly available and regulated strain globally, which helps us having this global licensing strategy.
Great. Okay. So that part is clear. So
Correct.
there's no issue on regulatory there. It's a B2B product or it's a B2C product? What is the
Yeah,
model?
absolutely. Ingredient producer.
Okay, great. And you're basically selling to hybrids, like just same thing as a Better Co. Like it's a hybrid or a vegan or vegetable
Yeah,
solution, right? As a replacement. You drop in for soy or for beef.
I would say all of the above. I agree with you. Hybrids is where I think the market is going. We see a lot of traction with clients on the hybrid segment, 70-30, 80-20, and that's true across Europe. But we, being a B2B ingredient provider, we can play across the spectrum. And typically, our first product at Aldi here in Switzerland is a fully formulated gourmet fillet, as it's called, which is really a chicken breast analog. As a whole cut, absolutely. So that's 93% mycoprotein.
Okay, as a whole cut, right? Okay. Oh man, I'm so hungry. I haven't had lunch.
It's early in the day, but yeah.
I literally just had a cookie in the morning with some milk. I'm literally my diet's that of a baby. It's very bad. Okay. So let's take that through. So I think that's obvious, right? That's easy to understand, right? You are B2B business that has produced the ingredients, no regulatory risk, successful, probably good margins on it compared to the replacement ingredients. I think you guys at least aim to be cheaper than beef, I'm guessing, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Which beef is not too much of an issue, to be entirely frank with you, because cheap globally, especially in Switzerland and now especially true in the US, but that's not true in Europe as well. It is becoming really expensive. So what we're going for is head to head price parity or cheaper than chicken.
Okay. And drop in same flavor, same taste, cleaner
Absolutely.
label, good high protein, right? So I think that's easy. I don't think that's confusing, right? There's nothing confusing. Now you
Yeah,
start talking about second thing. That got confusing to me. What
yeah,
again?
no,
What are we doing again?
referring back to the whole equity strategy, we present ourselves as the middleman or middle firm in between the industrial tech on the one hand side and the food tech. So industrial tech, as in we license fermentation know-how to carbohydrates producers globally, and that's the asset-light capitalist approach. And on the food tech side, we're a B2B ingredient providers. We're trying to be the missing link or solve for the missing link really in between the supply side, which is sugar and sugar side streams, and the demand side, which is mycoprotein as an ingredient.
Whoa, I think either I did not do enough or I'm still not smart enough. And I think both are probably there. So let's try. Can we take and again to our listeners, guys? We're
I'm
gonna get
sorry.
there. Don't worry, we're going there. We're slowly walking there. We're don't worry, this is gonna be good. We basically, I mean, what I heard in my just like pattern recognition, you can go to ADM. They have a bunch of precision fermentation capacity. You sell them your IP. They build a new business unit. Is that what you do?
Not really. I mean, I would love to work with ADM, to be frank. So if anyone listens from ADM, please reach out. But no, we're actually going for the sucrose world. So sugar made of sugar beets, sugar cane, and those folks today have limited valorization technologies. So think of, I don't know, Tereos in France. Yeah, sugar. So sugar folks.
So you're gonna go to them. You have this essentially waste. We're gonna upcycle into a value added product.
Absolutely, that's exactly it. And it's not just the waste, it's the sugar itself, it's the side stream, acids, the thin juice, all of the different steps of the sugar making process. And we're the only company in the world working on sucrose as a feedstock, and that's a key element of differentiation.
I love it. And then what does that make? That makes the same protein that you guys sell.
Correct, exactly. So we're upcycling, as you correctly put it, sucrose, so sugar from sucrose, into mycoprotein. And where we help those sugar folks is they're building the fermentation capacity. They operate, they own the land, they even have the operators, but we bring in the know-how and we get a IP licensing cut or percentage of revenue out of it. And we also help them on the distribution end. So a lot of those sugar folks are not protein producers. And so we're distributing the product on the back end because we know of the clients and we know where the market is, and we also have the food formulation.
You are essentially doing the offtake from are you guaranteeing offtakes in those facilities or no?
Yeah, so we don't structure them legally as offtake. It's a right of first refusal in precise legal language, but it is a way for them to de-risk the commercial distribution, because we provide this because we have firm conviction on our ability to distribute that.
I love this, but they put up the CapEx.
They put up the CapEx, they own the land, they own the assets, they even own the operators. We help them train, and that's part of the agreement. But they license what's called our bioblock strategy, and that's the IP.
Okay, so usually I put the objection handling towards the end.
Okay.
We're gonna just put it towards the beginning, right? I'm so good because I'm so curious about this. So to our listeners, my apologies, but we're gonna go straight to the end and go to the beginning. So it's gonna be a very ADHD episode. All right, so I just wanna highlight here. First of all, most upcycling companies have failed, right? Because there's unexpected costs that were in the cost of upcycling the ingredients. Like, is the play here because you don't own the asset, right? You basically license the IP and you support it in the sale of the product, but you're not holding the CapEx on your books. Is that where part of the big differentiation is?
I think
I speak with founders raising every day, and they're all telling me the same thing. It's harder than ever to find investors who are actually deploying, and getting access to those leads takes time founders just don't have. Every month fundraising is a month burning runway. This is why we created FTW Plus, a community of founders actively fundraising. The world's most accurate agri-food tech investor database, plus connecting you directly to ideal target investors and a community of support and accountability. Guaranteed results or your money back. Apply today at www.joinftw.com/hub.
as is very frequent in industry, I think the only team which said otherwise on your podcast was the Matter team, which went full in and owned a large scale facility. We licensed to go asset light and reduce the burden of capex investments to the share industry.
You said equity story. I want to just like I think a lot of the things you take for granted, and I think a lot of people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I understand.
So when you say equity story, don't even understand what the hell an equity story is, right? And then like, well, these two parts. Well, that's really confusing because it is confusing, right? This is to me is like it's a very unique model. If it's like Better Meat Co is not selling a licensed play of their product. Maybe they are. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
not what he told me when he raised 32 million. Right. So this is good. Like we're gonna open this up, okay?
Mm.
So most upcycling plays don't work from a financial standpoint. Like what? Like that clearly has informed your model. So talk through why this is gonna work financially.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. I wouldn't be so prescriptive as to say upcycling doesn't work, or I think the core of fermentation is using some carbon source and fermenting it into a product. So by definition, is some form of upcycling. But where I think there is some strong financial benefit in our case is that we're using sucrose in different shapes of form and actually solving for a key problem for the sugar producer. So there is almost excess sugar production in many jurisdictions. So production has steadily rose. It's a very global market, but prices have gone down. On the flip side, people want to reduce their sugar consumption. There's just a lot of new alternatives, including sweet proteins and the likes being produced with the view of reducing sugar consumption. And we're seeing this across the spectrum, including with the wider GLP-1 trend, etc. So that's a long way of saying it's an industry which today faces high production volumes and reduction of the end market and few valorization technologies, namely bioethanol and sustainable aviation fuel, to name the main ones. And those require really, very substantial capex, somewhat low valorization price, right? Those remain fuels. So it's not like you can charge a very hefty price or a very strong price for those. So the pricing power is somewhat limited. And last but not least, it is a food for fuel valorization technology. And there are a lot of constraints associated, be it regulatory, be it ethical, associated with food for fuel. So we come in trying to solve for those bottlenecks. One is a food for food application, which, for instance, in India has proven to be an incredible sale. We're getting just a huge stamp of approval just because it's food for food. Number two, we're solving in many parts, and that's even true for Europe.
It's because it is just accepted more by consumers. Is that when you say in India you're getting a big stamp of approval? What does that mean?
Yeah, so in parts of the world, including India, there have been restrictions and limits as to how much of a sugar input, you can convert into a non food output. So in this case, bioethanol or sustainable aviation fuels, mostly ethanol in India. There are limits, and those are either regulatory based or ethical based if you go in different parts of the world. People don't like to use a food input and transform it into fuel. That's just food being wasted in a way. What sugar abundant countries and protein deficient countries love is using a food input and transforming it into a food output, especially if that food output is protein rich, fiber rich, and a whole food ingredient. So we're solving for those bottlenecks with not only the fermentation technology, but also the product in itself.
Yeah, so I'm smiling. If somebody's seeing the video, I'm smiling a lot because I work at Ayana Bio. We essentially use sugar is our fuel, right? That's the growth media sugar. So
Yep.
everything, and we're converting that into high value ingredient, which is say saffron,
Yep.
nutraceuticals. Like you're essentially growing a farmer product on sugar, right? So that's
Yep.
that's also. So I'm like I'm smiling year to year, and our we have a major family office invested in India, right? And are doing scale up in India to 50,000 liters, right? So like everything's like, yeah, this is brilliant. I agree with 100. Like, yes, 100. Well, objection handled. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good way to do it. Okay, so I think for now we're gonna go back now to our fundraise, which but even though I'm smiling year to year because I love the way you handled that, it was really good. So there's an equity story. Fine, I think it's now a little clearer. Maybe just to clarify, what is the real business though? Maybe that's the part that I just want to clarify. Are we an ingredient company or are we a technology company, IP company that's licensing? Like, which one are we actually building the VC use case on?
To be frank, both. You need the licensing to actually get product, and then you need someone to valorize that product. So we're playing on both ends. We're trying to go for a B2B ingredient play, but also having access to the infrastructure itself without spending the CapEx ourselves.
Okay. Cool. I love that. So good. So good. So the equity story is very, very clear. You have your current investors. You tell them, look, we want to have great conversations. We think we have a very strong position. We have proof of where we achieve. There's no technological risk has been proven. There's a commercial demand. We have this licensing model. What happened next? Like, how did that convert into them actually doing work?
Yeah, so very good question. And part of it lies in seeing the plant. David, who's the CEO and co-founder, often says that this is the seeing is believing tour, and just getting people to Aarberg, which is about 20 minutes away from Bern. So I would say, countryside Switzerland, to make it simple. People from all over the world have traveled there to see an actual fermentation plant built in and siloed in an actual sugar mill. And I think seeing product coming out of it, being able to taste the product even immediately after fermentation, seeing the product on the shelves, just de-risk not only the tech, the construction, but also the commercial risk. People tasted the product and said, wow, I wish I had that product in my local retail store. And so the next following questions are, what is it that you need to go to full scale? What is it that you need to achieve certain margin threshold, etc. But I think the initial discussions and the risk taking exercise that you just mentioned just naturally happens when people tour the site and taste the product.
Now, first of all, 100%, I'd say one of the coolest moments as a dad was when I took my daughter to Paul's
Yeah.
facility in Sacramento, and she ate the product. And I was like, I had like for a second, and it's a rare moment as a father when your daughter was like, at that time she was 8, like now she's like 10. She's like, oh, I think my daughter's thinking I'm cool for like a second. I was like, oh, that's a good moment, right? So, so yes, tours 100%. But what I'm curious about, there's a lot of startups that struggle to get their investors to work for them, meaning to make that warm introductions, right? To
Okay.
like,
That's your
how
point.
did you do that part? Because like I understand the value. Hey, come to our facility, wine and dine, like, and then like we'll talk about it. That's good. But how like your investors did a lot of work for you here. I mean, if you're saying they brought the entire round, that's pretty impressive. So how did you get your investors to do that level of commitment for you?
I will answer partially because I think the other part is really for them to answer. No, listen, I think since the early days, and the company was founded in late 21, early 22, um, they built a lot of conviction on the founding team. David being a repeat founder in the alt protein space, Ian Marison being a bit of a fermentation guru with 40 plus years of industrial scale experience for fermentation. And, people want not only to de-risk themselves, right? People want us to succeed, not only to save their position, and that's the natural bias here, but also they see the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into building a company on a daily basis. And I think they strongly believe we have the right team to execute on it, and we share the vision on a regular basis. So I think they have a strong level of conviction themselves. And the beauty, and I think that's one caveat and one good aspect of having some venture capital firms in your cap table, is they're continuously fundraising themselves. So people continuously meet on the back end because they need LPs, they meet new GPs, they interact with corporates. So they have continuous discussions. And the honest truth to your question is, those spontaneous discussions that they had on the back end just became, hey, I talked to this guy last week and I think he could be a great fit for you. So it's not like people had a turnkey solution ready for us to contact and say, hey, here's the money. It just came about that, oh yeah, I met this guy and they're interested in those themes and I think you would fit right in. And that's how those conversations were brought about.
Okay. Well, I think to our listeners, though, I want to highlight here, the reason they came about is because investors have high conviction in the team, right?
Yeah.
Because a VC would not bring ops to a team that's now winning, right? It's like you basically want to make sure that you're good. You want to look good in front of people you syndicate with, right? So you're going to bring your best to them, right? So it says a lot about you. So what you're saying is the co-leads that were brought in, you did not have them on your hit list. I mean, like, you
No,
didn't know that they existed?
no, not really. I mean, the Oetker group, we knew about them, but we didn't know they were making, I would say, early stage bets, including in the fermentation space.
So that's, again, fascinating. You brought cash outside where you thought cash is found.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay, great. And then again, was it just like serendipitous that your VC just said, hey, by the way, I just met this guys. I think this is a good fit. Let me make an intro. That's how it really went down?
I mean, to be frank with you, yes. For the two co-leads, yes. Some of the other follow-on investors actually came through referrals or word of mouth. But I would say the two co-leads literally came exactly almost word for word using that intro.
Okay. What was the biggest objection you had to handle in the fundraising process with those co-leads? Like, because I think once you have the leads in place, like, things get a little easier, right? I mean, Cosaic is they're awesome plays. Like, that's a perfect fit. We
Yeah.
had, you should really listen to the podcast with them. Amazing fit. So talk through what was the objection you had to handle that you were just getting, that was the thing. It was just hitting your head against it. And how'd you handle it?
Yeah. No, I think as for a lot of companies in the space, I think where we had to convince the most was on commercial demand, commercial traction. Partly because I think we already de-risked some of the other aspects, like the fact that we were producing a quality product without a single batch being contaminated, etc. Like, I think we had taken a lot of the other supply, construction, and technology risk. A lot of the questions were, okay, but now that you can't produce, who's going to buy it? And I think that was the one area where we had the most questions with all investors, being the lead ones or the followers. And on that front, I think being a B2B ingredient provider just helps the narrative there, whereby we're not siloed, we're not constrained by one product or another, we're not tied by one recipe. We can use mycoprotein for hybrids. We can use it as a whole food ingredient, like we're doing at Aldi. We have a patent as for using mycoprotein for a dairy alternative, so we can do myco milk. One of our next coming product on the shelves in Europe will be a mycoprotein cheese. So I think the versatility of mycoprotein as an ingredient helped us tremendously in that way.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, there's a patent, there's numerous applications. So if one application didn't work out, we could apply it to different. It's already being tested with the supermarket, so you get some commercial traction. They're in place as well, right? And I'm guessing they like the taste themselves.
Yeah. No, they do. I mean, I would say second strong stamp is that it's not only the first time but the second time. So we were reissuing the same product with Aldi this year. We took the recipe a bit and moved it from a vegetarian to a vegan formula or recipe. But the fact that Aldi, who's not known for being a high price point retailer and not being the easiest the counterparty to deal with, the fact that they're reordering that same product to be on the shelves is also a strong testament that it worked well. Actually, we slightly outperformed the original expectations with them velocity wise. So I think it proved that something is right with that product.
Okay, take me through the due diligence process. Anything you want to highlight about how you prepped for the due diligence? Anything about the data room that maybe is important to know? Anything about the deck that you felt like, because your branding is awesome, by the way. If anybody wants to see a good website, I mean, I don't know, did you guys hire an agency or is it in house?
Yeah, no, it's an agency out of Eastern Europe, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, but I mean, yeah, very good, very
All
good.
right. All right.
Very good. So I think that the visuals on point for sure. Super clear narrative, even though it's hard. If you look at the website, it's hard because it has both sides of the story, which again, not simple, but it does a great job. Anything we should know about the way you handle that kind of DD process that other founders can look at and say, hey, that's interesting?
Yeah, so two parts to answer that question. On the one hand side, I do bring myself a baking background. So I unfortunately do know what to do and what to feed into that room and how to continuously update it and make sure we stay on top. So I think what a lot of people said is that there was a strong sense of professionalism, clean data, ease of access, and readable data. So it's not just a big data dump; it's properly structured data, and that
What
was
did you use
one
as a
feedback.
platform? What was your
We
platform? Was it just a
used
Google Doc?
both. We used Ensarada to start with, and then switched to DocSend.
DocSend, yeah. So
Yeah,
Ayana Bai uses DocSend as well. So I built the data room in DocSend. I think DocSend is actually quite valuable from a multi-step permission. So it's good. Yeah, cool.
yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
awesome. And then just anything else about the data room that you think important about the structure of
Yeah,
it, or something that was super
exactly.
important?
So I was going to get to that. So the first one was on, I would say, professional data and quality, but the second part is around structure. To your point, so and we structured the data room the same way we structured the investment memo. Because as I pointed out before, there's the supply side, which is teaming up with sugar folks, and then there's the demand side, which is selling a B2B ingredient to the food and retail community. And we structured the data room using exactly the same flow as was in the IM, so people could tie that in easier. Partly because, as you rightly pointed out, I think it takes a bit of time to understand the business model. And we wanted people to go to contracts which were on the demand side and they understood what that meant and they understand how those are different from what you see on the supply side, which are IP licensing agreements with sugar companies.
So was it almost like then two businesses that you were essentially presenting in two folders? Is that how it almost looked like?
To be frank, yes, if you want to stretch it, one could say that. I agree. Again, we try to say we're the middleman in between those two sides, but yeah, you could assess it as such. That's correct.
Okay, yeah, I love this. Okay, anything else, a mistake that you feel like you made that our founders can learn from?
Yeah. So one thing we knew about, and still I don't think we did right from the beginning, is really go with a huge outreach effort from the beginning and then try to cast the net wide and then zoom in all at once. I think the one trick, and that's partly due to resources, the one thing which we eventually did is that we ended up just talking to some folks and talking to some folks. So it was hard to put everyone aligned on one same timetable, which was, I think, tricky, right? We had one person here saying yes, but not now, and then another folks saying, yeah, I'm willing to drive now, but we were missing the rest of the syndicate. So I would suggest to anyone, and something I also am telling myself for future rounds, is having a more structured round and approach, casting super wide from the beginning, and then with the view of having everyone aligned at the same time so that you don't drag this for too long.
Yeah, it's like what I'd like to give an example and see if you agree with it. Like, it's really like just like selling a house, right? You want to stack your meetings. As soon as somebody who looks at the house, when they walk out, you want another person walking in to like, oh damn, I'm going to lose that house if I don't give that offer, right? So stacking meetings is really, really key. Like, you don't need to have a fundraising process that takes 7 months. Like, you should know if you get a raise in 1 month because you stack the hell out of those meetings. It just takes 4 months of like process to prepare, and you stack everything. And then you'll know. Would you agree with that as an example?
Yeah, I think that's the right way. And also the one beauty that comes out of it is that's the only way you can actually create proper competitive process. Because if everyone is coming in and out, then of course no one is in the same room at the same time. And there's no FOMO, there's no nothing. So yeah, I think not only to build certainty in the process, but also to create some form of competitive tension. That's something we could have done better, I believe.
I love this. Well, thank you for that honesty. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate because people are going to want us to continue for about another half an hour. But we have to kind of move towards that close.
Yeah.
So, a question that I love to do, you gave us a lot of wisdom here. I mean, like, this is just like a part one of many parts. Next one is going to be in live while you're eating your food in Switzerland. That's clear. Take me through, like, what do you guys need now in the next 6 months? If a founder, if a company or investor is listening, like, what are you guys looking for now in the next 6 months? How can our community give back for everything you've shared with us?
Yeah, no, thanks, Alex, for providing that forum. So I would say couple points. One is we're hiring. We've got 3 roles open, so please have a look on our website in case you're interested for CapEx or sales. There's work to be done, and we're working to onboard people here in Switzerland. Number 2 is, I would say, partnerships. Again, be it on either carbohydrates producers looking for add-on valorization technology, or instead food producers looking for best-in-class protein and fiber-rich ingredients. We're also open for business. And last but not least, we raised a Series A round. There's technically 1 ticket left of about 2 million for whoever is interested prior to the summer end. And we will be raising another round, I think within the next 24 months or a bit later if we can. And so, I think I'm keen to get ahead of that timing and engage with folks that are interested in what we're building here.
Amazing. Well, Charles, well, thank you so much for all this. I think you made a lot of people much better due to your wisdom.
Okay. Well, thank you for this, Alex. I appreciate your time.
One more thing, don't close this episode yet. If you got value from this conversation, here's what I need from you. A 5-star rating, 1 comment, 20 seconds of your time. That's the deal. A 5-star rating means more founders find this content, and every time a founder raises, all boats are elevated. Every week, I pick 1 random comment and send that person a complimentary copy of Investment Climate, the book. 50 sales playbooks from founders who actually raise money during the fundraising winter. Real strategies, real closes, real numbers, not theory. So if you want a copy, comment below. And if you haven't followed the show yet, do that too. And if there's a guest you want us to bring on the show, just drop us a note or send us an email. We'll read each and every one. Until then, keep on raising.